And then the last piece that I would kind of get into about like people navigating, I think I got into this a little bit, but people navigating these diagnoses and if they meet these diagnoses or not. And just being mindful of like, we don't own these words.
Right.
We don't own words. And we, as psychiatrists, what we want to help people do is understand how maybe these words help them understand themselves.
Yeah.
And help them identify what could be helpful for them in a way that is authentic and meaningful and gives purpose to the world that they are living in.
I like that. And I think, especially if you look at like mainstream and everything else with some of these topics, it's the idea that you may have one feature, you may have a lot of these features, right? But it's together and the dysfunction that it could create that makes a disorder. A lot of people say the special interest, like, and how do you tell if a special interest versus just a hobby that you're really, really passionate about? And no one has to be right or wrong. We don't need to have a label. It's just something that you do.
Yeah.
So I like that. For parents and teachers, sometimes they see the opposite side of things, the behavioral changes that comes with the irritability, the school refusal, sometimes even self-injurious behavior. How would they know or what can help them indicate that their adolescent is struggling or experiencing a mental health crisis sometimes when they see the not so good side of things with autism?
Absolutely. Yeah. The first thing that I think everyone knows this, but I'm just going to say it out loud, which is to ask, especially if you are working with like a autistic teenager who is able to communicate, ask and inquire, while also being mindful about when you do it, right? Like asking someone in the time that they are distressed and overwhelmed is not always the best time. The first thing that you want to do is just create kind of a safe, quiet, calm space, let somebody calm down, and then revisit. None of us process words well when we are stressed and overwhelmed. Autistic individuals might particularly have difficulty processing words when they are stressed or overwhelmed. So as few words as possible. Mm-hmm. There can also be some autistic individuals also have processing differences or processing challenges where they might not process information in the same way or as quickly as other people. And so even in asking what overwhelms someone, give them time.
Yeah.
Give them time to answer the question, right? Don't just wait a second or 5 seconds, right? Give them a little bit of time to think through, especially when we are thinking about the school setting. The other thing to wonder about, especially if your kid has never done this before, or I say your kid, or you have never done this before, being aware that school has lots of variables. Mm-hmm. And being mindful about all of those different variables, right? And that could include there's been a change in teachers. There's been a change in academic expectations. There's been a change in environment in one way or the other, right? Maybe the like heater went out in the school classroom and the kid is cold all day, right? If you went to school, with the trailer building that existed behind like the main school building, right? And you got, right? And you were like, yeah, I guess I'll wear a jacket today to school, right? Like for some kids, that could be particularly overwhelming, right? And to inquire about that of what is different, what is going on. The other piece to really wonder about and really be mindful about is the role of bullying. Or kids experiencing bullying. And this is true for both teenagers, but also younger kids. We were talking about earlier, part of being autistic is you might not pick up on language nuance. You might not pick up on abstract concepts the same way that other kids might pick up on them. And for some kids, that can lead to them being bullied. Yeah. Right. However, they might not know how to describe that someone is being mean to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And to really ask teachers, has there been a change in friend dynamics? Is it possible that they're being bullied at all? Is there anything else that could be occurring, especially when this has never happened before? The other pieces to kind of think about in just like the school accommodation piece is, again, as children get older and move into the teenage years and adolescent years, the expectations for schoolwork and how the autonomy that individual should have in doing schoolwork changes. So if this is an individual that hasn't been identified before, and you are seeing that they are having increased challenges organizing, right? Like, yeah, their book bag has always been a mess, but like now it's an abyss, right? Like, you did your homework. It's just buried under 35 other pages at the bottom of your book bag, right? Of the expectations have changed. And so the organizational skills might need to change as well, right? Or we need to augment these organizational skills. We need more binders. We need more visual cues.
Yeah.
Teachers, as you get into those high school years, teachers might have a little bit more free-flowing. Class has started. Let's get into it. However, an autistic individual is probably going to do a little bit better with, like, say name, give them a second to engage. This is what is going to go on today, right? Giving people a routine, a predictability is what is going to occur in the class that day, and perhaps even a visual cue as to what is going on. I think all of us can think back. It's kind of funny. It took me kind of 2 decades to learn that. Maybe 3 decades to learn that I'm actually a much better visual learner than I am an auditory learner, right? And honestly, it took a little bit into medical school where I was like, oh my gosh, I learned so much better sitting down with a book in a quiet place, reviewing charts and reading information than I do listening to things, right? You're like, how many hours of my life did I just spend listening to people? Like, I've done what? Like, what have I been doing, right? And for an autistic person, that becomes even more heightened.
Yeah.
That learning verbally might be even more difficult. So giving more visual cues, more visual awareness. If kids might need other ways to communicate, right? Maybe verbally they can't communicate as quickly, but maybe through other mechanisms they could be able to communicate or to write. When you're in high school, you have to write. Well, I don't know. I don't know what high schools do right now, but we used to have to write a lot.
All the time.
And
I don't think they even teach cursive anymore. But that's another story.
Yeah, that's another story. But I mean, we used to have to write like time. You would sit down in class and you'd have to write like a 3-page essay in an hour or a 5-page essay in an hour and a half. And autistic kids might have more challenges with the fine motor skills of writing, which is going to make that so much more frustrating for them. They can complete the task, but the way we are asking them to do it puts them behind their peers.
Got it.
Right? Okay. So can they type? Can they do other ways to achieve the same tasks, display that they have the knowledge without bumping up against these other difficulties that they might have? So there are lots of reasons that you might start seeing behavioral challenges crop up just based on the expectations that were placed on kids.
Dr. Copeland, you also started talking about this, but giving teachers or counselors a little bit more concrete, and you kind of said it how do you want to start your class to let them know or give them the cue that we're about to start, we're getting ready to start our lesson. But how else can teachers, counselors support the social skills development in the way that still gives the teen comfort and knowing that we're supporting or we're respecting them, and then even giving a genuine connection, but rather than framing them as a neurotypical student in the way that they structure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There are lots of ways that you can do this, and for families that could be listening, you've probably heard the terms 504s and IEPs. There are clear structures to provide supports and accommodations. And so if you notice your teenager is struggling in a way now that maybe they hadn't been struggling before, you could first think about what is the structure of the classroom, right? Does my kid actually need to sit at the front of the classroom, away from other distractions, away from other things that might make it difficult? For to your point, teachers and counselors thinking about, am I using adequate visual cues? Does this individual have enough ways to communicate that they know this information in a way that is relevant and appropriate for them? Thinking about that social nuance and navigation, I remember working with one kid, really nice guy, and I remember asking him one day, because he was trying to navigate friendships. I remember asking him, well, how many friends do you want?
Yeah.
And he said 2. And I said, well, what would it look like if you had 20 friends? And he said, that actually sounds really overwhelming for me, right? And that was just really helpful information, because that allowed us then to set up a plan for, okay, 2 friends, let's figure out how we can get your social needs met, and let's figure out what social skills you might need in order to achieve that. And that is where I think counselors can come in, having social skills opportunities. And it's not just for autistic youth, right? Like, being a teenager is about learning social skills.
Absolutely.
A lot of us made a lot of mistakes, like trying to learn those social skills, like trial and error stuff, right? So it's not just for this one group, but having an opportunity for kids to practice social skills in a way that is authentic to them, right? We're not asking them to do something that feels inauthentic, but we're helping them learn, well, did you know that this is the way that other people respond to things? And how can you use that information to navigate how you make friends, how you engage other people? So if schools don't have social skills groups that kids could join or participate in, really think about, is that something that could happen? Is that something that could be possible? I was talking about integrated care at the very beginning. Schools have this wonderful opportunity because they have almost all the kids there.
Yeah.
Right? And they have this wonderful opportunity of being able to support kids where they are. My mother was an elementary school guidance counselor at the public elementary school that I went to growing up. And my point of saying that is, I also fully acknowledge that we ask teachers in schools sometimes to do too much.
We do.
Right? And being really mindful about what are the, when I make that statement about how you can get a social skills group, also how can you do it in a way that supports your school and does not burn out your teachers and your guidance counselors?
Speaking on that, because I do think, yes, the environment of schooling is great because everyone is there and kids show up. But we also don't want to burden and feel like it's one job for just the teachers or counselors alone. So how do we promote that collaboration between the school, maybe the medical professionals, whether it's psychiatrists, the parents, and the student that's going through the spectrum or a disorder or any mental illness at that time to make it effective to support them?
Right. So, and I want to say a couple of things. Like the first is, I think as a society, in the way that we operate our different silos of systems, we are still very much trying to figure out what is the most effective strategy for health systems and school systems to communicate and share information. And I think that is a very important policy piece that we have to think about. How do we break down silos, right? Like the kid doesn't see it as a silo. It's that they're here from 3 to 4:30 and then they're here at 5, right? Like it's just their day to day, but we see it as silos. And how do we reframe how, our structures exist? And there can still be communication that can happen. Right. And for if you are a teacher and you are working with a kid that is struggling and they have a health professional, know that we as health professionals like it when people reach out to us, right? We like having more information. We like knowing what is effective or ineffective, and how can we support school systems and teachers? How can we support families? As health professionals, we have to leave our silo. Like that is, if we want to provide effective care, if we want to support people the way we think they should deserve to be supported, we have to leave our silos and engage schools. And then there's families that are navigating that, right? And what I want families and parents to know is it is not do not feel that you are burdening anybody by reaching out and saying, we are having challenges here, right? This is why these systems exist, right? And please let us know. Was that helpful?
No, that was very helpful.
Okay.
And that actually leads me to another thought. Like as in our world, psychiatrists, there could be pharmacological management that we can do to handle these symptoms that come with autism spectrum disorder. What is some other evidence that could further support, the teachers, the parents can have more understanding of that's out there for improving the outcomes and quality of the adolescents?
Well, and there's some, I also want to say there's some great resources out there, and just being aware that there are both state organizations and national organizations. Autism Speaks has a great packet that, if I remember correctly, is school and teacher facing. The Autism Society of North Carolina is a wonderful resource for people to connect with and reach out to, right? So if you were trying to think about what is the most effective way for us to structure this setting, we can get into some of that nuance, but what I think I want listeners to know is that these manuals are developed, right? They exist. There are national bodies that have created this, and even if I remember the Autism Speaks packet correctly, it even goes by different subject matter, right? Math class, social studies. How can you teach your class in a way that is mindful of people that are neurodiverse? And as we were saying earlier, us learning our own learning preferences. This is not just for autistic kids, right? Like multiple students in the classroom likely learn in different ways, and the ways that you are creating these structures will be relevant for other students. It might be particularly relevant for a few individuals, but it could actually very much support the rest of the student body in the ways that they engage classrooms and their comforts of being in school.
Correct. Some people may say, autism spectrum disorder, or if a person is autistic, it's not changing. It's lifelong. There's no cure. What are the primary goals of treatment that people should be looking at when they think about supporting them?
Yeah, it's I think there's different ways that I could answer that question based on the needs of the person. But I would also point out that just being a human requires different things, right? And the same thing about being a person is relevant to someone that is like autistic because they experience the same stuff, right? We are all looking for the same things. We are looking for meaning and purpose and a life that we enjoy living.
Yeah.
Right? And depending on the person, that could look different. Right? So how do we support strengths, right? There might be some autistic kids that actually like the process of school, the way that school exists, of how you learn or the structure of classrooms or the assignments or what have you just don't fit very well. But gosh, you get that kid in like a vocational or a trade track,
Yeah.
right? Where they are, thinking about like working with their hands to be an electrician or a plumber, jobs that actually pay very well and we need in the United States, and could very much fit their brain of us being able to, I think for lots of reasons we've had this very college-oriented mindset. And for lots of individuals, that mindset is not authentic to who they are, what will bring happiness or joy. And instead, being aware that there are these other tracks that can bring meaning earlier, right? And maybe it's not a trade pathway, but being mindful of what is important for this person, what are their strengths, how can we support them? As people get older as well, the needs change, right? We're sitting here talking about Eric Ericksonian, identity, versus role confusion, right? We haven't even gotten to like generativity versus stagnation, right? I've always been offended by stagnation. As you get older, I think we do a lot more than stagnate. But like being mindful that people go through these different developmental stages, right? And as people get past like this identity versus role confusion, you start moving into, we're going to stick in Erickson, right? You start thinking about romantic relationships, right? And you move from, big, your friend group is hundreds or dozens of people who exist in multiple different categories to normal development becomes your friend group becomes a lot tighter and becomes a lot more important, right? And having a few very strong relationships becomes more important as you get older, and being mindful that we all go through these developmental stages. And it just might look a little bit different. So being really thoughtful of, how do we support their strengths? How do we help them exist in a workplace? And you can think about accommodations in the workplace as well. How do we help them exist in a workplace that they enjoy and brings meaning and quality and purpose? And then maybe they get a little bit older and maybe you're thinking about relationships, right? Like how do we support them in having really tight-knit relationships? And maybe those tight-knit relationships look different than what we might think otherwise is a tight-knit relationship. And being aware that that could be authentic to that individual and could be meaningful to that individual.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because even I think about, we talk a lot about autism spectrum disorder, the young childhood adolescent. We never really focus or at least talk about the after high school, like until adulthood. What does work life, employment things look like? And so I really enjoyed you going on that track because the idea is that supporting them now with the tools can lead further to their independence and autonomy to make the decisions, whether they want to go to college, whether they want to do trade school or something else that feels right for the individual.
Right. Absolutely.
My last question, Dr. Copeland, for you is like, as we talked about all of this, how does one support their autistic teen for like self-acceptance and
Yeah.
knowing that I am okay and that
Yeah.
I'm different and it's all right
Yeah.
to be this way. Because I can only imagine a kid, especially if they didn't have positive experience and feeling like I'm different, I'm weird, I want to isolate, I don't have friends or individuals to fit in. So how can the parents or teachers know that, no, you are okay? How do we support that?
Yeah. When there's a code, the first person's heart rate to check is
It's
yourself.
yourself, yep.
Right? And when you are supporting someone, also being very mindful about how you are doing.
Yeah.
Right? And so for parents out there to be aware that in order for all of us to be aware, that in order for us to show up to be our best selves and to be the most supportive, checking in on how we're doing and that we're doing well. There's also like just the basic stuff is true for all of us that fits into the lifestyle psychiatry, lifestyle medicine piece, right? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you getting good physical activity? Do you have some type of social connectedness? Is there some like mindfulness-based stress reduction strategies that could be helpful for you? Like that core stuff, right? Being mindful that you are getting that and also supporting your teen in getting that. I also made this comment a little bit earlier of one of the most important things that we can do for all adolescents is for them to feel supported.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to not understand, right? Like, that's okay. We perceive the world differently. But to say, gosh, like, listen, I am here for you. We are going to walk through this together. I'm going to learn like how like to be the best. And if I'm doing something that isn't working for you, I need you to let me know, right?
Absolutely.
Like let's keep kind of these open communications. The other piece is, a lot of parents, you know your kid better than anyone. You know them you know them the best. And when you're starting to see changes, if you're worrying that they're struggling, touching base with teachers, asking that kid what they need, being mindful that there are mental health professionals that could be helpful if that is who they need to reach out to. Also, just this idea of if you've got an autistic teenager, that autistic teenager is probably just like all teenagers, learning who they are,
Right.
navigating who they are, navigating that who they are now is actually different than who they were a year or 2 years ago, and you being mindful of how to support this individual as they are navigating these differences, being aware that that's like a part of it, and I want to say this, like, just supporting people in a real way is often good enough.
Yeah.
Right? There's no perfect here. We talk about good enough parenting all the time, right?
Good enough.
There's no perfect, and all parents make mistakes, right? All parents look back and you're like, gosh, I should have said that differently. I need to respond to that later.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And if you feel that way, bring it up, right? Like there's no reason to like sit on something that you feel guilty about, right? Like you can bring it up. We're all learning how to be human.
Yeah.
Like at all times, we are all learning how to be better humans. Like no matter like where you come from or what you're doing. Also, as we were talking about earlier, like helping that teen, supporting that teen. Especially as they maybe go to college or maybe get jobs, thinking about what accommodations are going to be most advantageous for them. Parents are always the best advocate for the kid. Even if the kid might be a little embarrassed sometimes, like the parent is always is frequently the best advocate for the kid. And helping schools or helping employers or helping whoever, know that, if you say things this way, it might not help. Yeah. But if you say things in a more direct way, like, just for example, right, like it might help, right? open your book to page 20 and read paragraphs 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Very concrete instructions. Same could be true for employers, just because I've now drifted to like this part of the conversation of autistic individuals make are excellent employees because of a significant desire to complete the task in a way that they have been told to complete it.
Okay.
Right? And so being very clear, it's true for college, true for also parents as well, the instructions are clear. They are not ambiguous.
Yeah.
Right? And for the teenager, helping them know that actually I need things structured in this way. And I will do better if things are structured in this way, right? And that's just an example, but there are lots of ways you can kind of think about these nuances of being a person that might be more relevant to one person to the next.
I love it. Dr. Copeland, thank you so much for being
having
here
me.
today. I think our listeners have learned so much about ways that they can step up, they can support, they can start asking the questions, and even what symptoms to look out for or concerns that may heighten you to know maybe I should ask more questions and try to intervene. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners before we go?
That's a great question. I don't know if we're going to be asked that. What I would say is we are really learning that we have different ways of engaging the world, and we as human beings are different in different ways, and ultimately, we all kind of need the same things, right? We need support. We need meaning. We need physical health, and we need to feel like we have a purpose in this world. And so, no matter what space someone exists in, how they're navigating who they are, how they're helping their loved one navigate who they are, just think about how can we do that as a community? How can we support each other as a community? I think is always relevant.
Thanks again, Dr. Copeland. I totally agree. Whether you're on the neurotypical operating system or autism operating system, we all need those meanings in our life and those connections to make the world a better place. Thanks again, and thanks for listening to Unique Adolescent Minds Unlocked.